Hello, Lewis Black here. And before I start my rantcast, um, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be hitting the road. That's right. On September 21st, I'm going to be back out on tour, and it all begins in Victoria, Canada, and then goes on to Vancouver, Canada, and then goes on to Spokane, Washington. The next week, it all happens in Ketchum, Idaho. I don't believe I have not been there. It's the home of Sun Valley, and I'm quite excited about going there. I'm quite excited about also that week returning finally to Salt Lake City. It's been too long. Go to lewisblack.com. I'll be in Cleveland. I'll be in Cincinnati. I'm going to Biloxi, back to Biloxi, Mississippi. I could go on and on and on, but check out the website, lewisblack.com. Please come out and join me. And if you hear this, what I'm, this announcement, tell others. Tell them to go to lewisblack.com if they're fans, or even if they're not fans and they're looking for something to do. Point it out to them. And you tell someone, and then they'll tell someone, and then they'll tell someone. And by the time it gets to the last person, they'll show up in another city that I won't even be performing at. And I hope that they enjoy whatever show they see at that theater. I really look forward to getting out of this cable access studio and coming out and seeing people again. I am losing my mind here. I'll be back in a moment with the Rantcast. This could all go horribly wrong at any minute. Hello there, and welcome to the 147th edition of Lewis Black's Rantcast, entitled It Gets Crazier by the Minute. Oh, yeah, it does. And in a minute, it'll be crazier, and then in another minute, it'll be crazier, because it is now nonstop. There need to be, when Kevin McCarthy is saying that he's the adult in the room, we have no adults in the room. Okay? Understand? I'm speaking to you right now from an undisclosed location in Los Angeles, California, where I am presently ensconced because I am doing 7 podcasts this week. You're going to want to hear them because I have so much to say. Things will be a lot different. It's just my way of getting the word out in terms of trying to sell tickets and also to spend some time with some really terrific people. They won't be on my podcast. I will be on their podcast. Today was Pete Holmes and Howie Mandel, and there'll be other surprises coming your way, and I hope you look forward to it. But it's a lot of driving. It's a lot of LA. It's a lot of I don't know how they do it. The traffic in New York is levels of madness now, because as important as it may be to build bike lanes and pedestrian spaces, it's also, while you're doing that, it's kind of intelligent, but Lord knows we've lost sight of that you might want to figure out how that will affect traffic patterns. And when you bring trucks in to deliver goods, and there's a whole list of things, a list I could make for them that they didn't pay any attention to. So as a result, the roads are packed, but not like this is parking lots. There will come a point here. Someone will just basically reach the point where they cannot back out of their their parking space and from their home, and they'll open the garage door and there'll be 32 cars there, and they'll literally they'll be working remotely from their car because they'll bring a sandwich out, maybe some other odds and ends from the fridge, and sit in their car and with their laptop and do their work that day. And why in the car? Because that will allow them to feel like at least the car still has a use, that it's like an extra room in their house. Because I have never seen it's just I've talked about. I stopped driving in Los Angeles. God, about 10 years ago, almost now, I think, and I just had it. And it was ludicrous then. The back streets that I would take, because I tried to avoid, there's the 405, the 101, these are the main arteries that are clogged with car after car after car. And I used to take these back roads through neighborhoods and stuff. I'm sure thrilled by my presence, but it was the only way I really could get around, and you could make a good time. But now those are all clogged up too, so forget about it. I just don't see how it's possible to have a functioning city this way. I was told today that 7.5 miles, if you leave at the wrong time, 7.5 miles can take you up to an hour. And if that's not lunacy, I don't know what is. And it's gotten crazier again while I'm speaking. Probably more traffic out there than there was 5 minutes ago. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I was experiencing road rage when I wasn't driving. And that's the time to kind of hang up the keys to the car. And when the pandemic hit, I wished that I had kept driving because it really would have helped, kind of keep my brain going in a way and get me the fuck out of that apartment. But that's another story for another time. And we have so much to discuss. And I don't have the time to do it because I've got to do 3 more podcasts tomorrow. And there's so much to be I've got to be watching the TV for because the news is just spectacular. It's nuts. Okay? It's just nuts. They drag us to the last moment, these idiots in Congress, to basically, oh, no, now we're going to discuss, now we're going to figure out how not to shut it down. The only thing, and this should have been the title, but the title can only be so long. The one thing that government is responsible for, minimally, is to remain open. It is to stay open. Its doors are not supposed to close. It is not supposed to close down. Government must be there. They can't go, oh, I'm a little tired today. It's 24/7, whether they fucking like it or not. And it's the people who guide airplanes in. It's the folks who are working in the National Guard and have to be there on the weekends. It's our military. The list is endless. Okay, it's the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They were worried about whether they could test a variety of drugs, whether they could be able to continue to deal with the food and the standards of the food, and that the food is fucking edible. Come on, you're going to shut it down. What you don't get to do it. I can't repeat this enough. Congress doesn't get to shut us down. It doesn't get to shut the government down. The people who get to shut the government down is us, the American people. We're the only ones. And that's got to be taken out of their hands. All right? I mean, seriously. We've got a constitution. Let's add a couple of sentences, and that is you pricks don't get to shut the government down, no matter what your complaints are. All right? No matter what you're whining about, no matter what is so important to you, so that we have to basically deal with Kevin McCarthy telling us that he's the adult, and then Matt Gaetz wanders in and trying to get rid of Kevin McCarthy because he's so sharp about what the American people, you can't let the minority rule, okay? You just can't. And they've got the majority, the Republicans do, but they are not, this is to let 30 of them basically make the decision over what are we, over whether we're going to stay open or not. Seriously? I don't. And now it's gotten crazier. It just gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and it's got to come to an end because we haven't got the time or the energy as a people to let this go on. And it's true. We don't need to be tormented by those we elected, and that's tormenting. All of the people, 4 million of them who work for the federal government, tormented. The military, tormented. You don't get to do that. And in the meantime, they were going to get paid. I can't remember if I talked about this. I don't think I don't know if I have. But even if I have, it bears repeating. It certainly does. I'm getting rid of something, an error message. Yeah, Lewis created an error. It's such a joy to work with technology, too. But that's for another time. I haven't got time to discuss it this evening. I've got to wake up tomorrow. I've got plenty to do. I've got to be sharp. Rich Eisen's show, actually, a little sneak preview on the Paramount Network. I'll be talking to him. And speaking of which, I watched a horrible football game, and 2 of my 3 fantasy teams just ate it this week. But, and here's the upside, the Baltimore Orioles won the division for the first time in I can't remember how long. think it was 2006. I think they were in the playoffs in 2016. But I may be wrong about that, and I don't care because we won. We won, we won, we won. And this allows me to kind of really spend some joyous time with hope in my heart. And I know that it's not a good thing to carry, but I will. As after the playoffs begin, we face whoever wins and see if we can roll toward a World Series victory. My expectation is not that high. I am just so glad that we are competing in it. And I think this is this right? Yeah, no, I was a little worried about my, yeah, this looks good. Sorry, I've been all day. The thing whenever I do the Rantcast and these podcasts today, I worry about the look, because you have to. I've been on TV too many times and in too many movies, and I'm kind of going, okay, let's put some spackling in. And but I did get enough light here, and I hope you enjoy these fashionable curtains behind me. It's what if it's a giant in a dress? Wouldn't that be something when it was over and just this big leg came over my right shoulder, a giant leg? The first thing you'd see is a high heel that would just barely miss me. I am raving a little because it's been too much time on the highway, and it got crazier again. Another minute has passed, and we are another minute closer to psychosis. It is unbelievable, too, that Donald Trump showed up at court today and said that the court had made up numbers about the numbers that he made up. So it was a math festival. Did he cook the books? Yes, he cooked the books. That's it. It's that simple. It's there. It's in black and white. The numbers don't lie. I know that many of you, there are many out there, not many of you, but many out there who believe that they made these numbers up. He's the one who said them. And by saying them and by having his accountants say that, well, he'd said that it was this and it really should have been that. Crazier by the minute. I just watched a litany of some of the things he's been saying, and it's just it's beyond belief at this point. It really is, and that the Republicans don't make comments on it. And I'm sorry if I'm talking about the Republicans too much, but really get it together, because because the Democrats somehow don't seem to be able to say anything in response to the madness that comes out of former President Trump's mouth. And it's madness. You can run for office and you could say a lot of what he has to say without the kind of viciousness and the vile nature of the language that he uses. And I don't really like that. Literally just came out of my head, and I didn't think or have a thought about it. It's just there now. I heard it, what he said, and I cannot believe that the Democrats can't find a way to point it out and to pound that message out there. And, well, we'll leave it to the courts. Well, you can't. You've got to get the message out. So please try to do that, okay? Because the Republicans aren't dealing with it. And the Democrats in their own way aren't dealing with it. And it's gotten crazier again, even as I speak. I'd like to have gone on more and more, and I'd like to have been more specific, but there's a lot going on this week as I try to make sure that the tickets get sold. I'm going to be in Escondido on this Thursday, and then on to Las Vegas at the Mirage. And then we head to Reading, Pennsylvania next Thursday, and Friday. So next Thursday, it's in Reading, Pennsylvania. Friday, Rochester, New York. Saturday, Utica. I've not been there for a while. And finally to end up on Saturday in West Hampton, out on Long Island. And, join me if you can. And I look forward to seeing you out there. I'm going to wrap this up with a couple of psychotic things that have crossed the table here because, it got crazier again. Listen to this one. The Susanna Gibson, a Democrat running for Virginia's House, was reported to have performed sex acts with her husband for money on the streaming platform Chatterbait. Gibson, 40, called the revelations an illegal invasion of my privacy. If she was using that money to run for office, I'd go fine. Because if she's not bothering me by texting me or sending me emails, I don't care what she does. If it was her husband, that's fine, as far as I'm concerned. If you want to vote for somebody who does that, great. I don't care. And the fact, if she did, that was the way she was raising her money, God bless her, because they have to stop doing that. We have to stop being pounded relentlessly and being told that the only way that you can win an election is with money. Okay? It's up and it's gotten crazier again, just by my saying that. And finally, Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville explained that his one-man blockade of U.S. military promotions was necessary because the U.S. Navy is now so woke that we got people doing poems on aircraft carriers over a loudspeaker. What a horrifying. That's woke. It's just they're reading, if they are reading poems over the loudspeaker, fine. I hope it's a good poem. I hope it's an Ogden Nash. I hope it's a limerick. Maybe they're limericks. There was a young man who owned a tugboat who then went to whatever. Seriously. That's the reason he's doing it, because they're reading poems on aircraft carriers over a loudspeaker. That's enough. And then you go to Tommy and go, come here. We have a special room for you to sit in for a while until you wake up, physically wake up and deal with the reality around you. And that's all I got to say this evening. I do hope that I see you somewhere down the road and that you enjoy the many rants you'll be hearing after I leave you here. And I once again thank all of you who wrote them in and continue to write them in. I will get them out there once I'm finished a bunch of these these podcasts. Thanks for joining me. It means a lot, especially when I'm sitting in an undisclosed location in Los Angeles. But the weather's nice, and so that's always a plus. Take care of each other. It's a privilege and a pleasure to spend time with you, and I mean that. Kathy Walker wants to share a little something. It's really quick and to the point. Anyway, I did want to comment on the benefits of slavery deal. My comment is jumbo shrimp. Kathy. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. Yep, that's about nails it. The benefits of slavery and jumbo shrimp. For a Jojen, I guess, Ray Patch. Quick, simple, to the point. Just fed up here. I am just very tired of the political bullcrap every day. They just take up negative statements. It seems that even our weather reports are about 40% accurate where we live. And are they ever negative? It is going to be the worst, and this is the most intolerable. And 700 million people are suffering under a heat warning that is going to make them all lose their minds and be very, very, very angry all day long. That's me going on. Just joining in, Jojen. Now I need to go to the bookstore and ask for the banned ones for truth. And religion is deep in our political system. They need to be taxed, just like you and me. Thank you, Jojen, if I got that right. I appreciate that. Jojen Raypatch. Sarah Bartlett is upset, and I think you'll see why. Through a series of catastrophes, a family member is currently homeless in another part of the country. She's elderly, permanently disabled, and is recovering from a massive stroke. I walked her through the process of applying for HUD, H-U-D, which she did in person. She showed her bank statements, which she carries with her at all times, and which clearly show she receives motherfucking disability. Do they put her at the top of the list where she belongs and issue her an emergency Section 8? No. They tell her it'll be a 9-month wait. I spend 2 seconds Googling, tell her that's horse shit, and to go back to the HUD office, and she does, and is placed at the top. And get this, they tell her they'll mail her some forms in a few days. Mail. Huh? She has no fucking address. Can't she just pick them up in person? No. They do every fuck thing by the goddamn mail. What? Are HUD and the United States Postal Service in cahoots? I know the VA was fucked up. I repeat, the VA is fucked up, and so is HUD. My best to you and the rubber chicken. Sarah in Portland, Oregon. Thank you, Sarah. And I appreciate that. And it's extraordinary. When government works, it really works. And when it doesn't, wow. It's like, who's got the words? They're mostly unprintable, I think. Sean Manson isn't so much ranting as he is giving a little advice. He's got an idea. I will share it with you. I, like many people my age, have student loans, and of course, I was holding out hope of getting my remaining balance of student loans wiped out. Of course, I do have a logical brain, unlike many people these days. I didn't honestly think it was going to happen. At the time of writing, I only owed $2,600 left on my federal loans. I was able to completely pay off my private loans, so my balance remaining is very small. But after the Supreme Court struck down the student loan forgiveness, I got to thinking. Federal loans are loans backed by the federal government, right? So why is it that they get to set the interest rates on those that they do? Before COVID, my interest rate was already 6.875%. That was when the federal rate was under 2%. Currently, my interest rate is supposed to be the same rate when the interest starts up again, which is great, I suppose. Anyway, back to where I'm going with this. I think federal loans should not have an interest rate no more than 1% higher than the federal borrowing rate. The money is backed by the feds, so the rate should be cheaper. And even at 1%, they're making money. Maybe I'm losing my mind with this, but I think this could be a good and easy way for people to save some money on their student loans. I know I'm in the minority of money owed, and it is easy for me to say this, but this idea could potentially help a lot of people. Take care, Lewis. And you too, Sean. And no, but of course it shouldn't be more than 1%, and that's a completely lucid, rational way, in part, to deal with the crushing debt that has been created. It will still crush some people, even with adding the 1%, Sean, you know that. And congratulations that you were able to get it down to that. I know that I think the rate that I was under, I've said this time and again, for a national student defense loan so that I could become a playwright, was 2% at the time. You can handle that. All right? God, we're nuts. And I won't even go into it. I won't start. Bud Glisman is pissed about the Supreme Court. And, well, I guess you can't really blame him. Let's hear what he's got to say. SCOTUS has become an unethical political body subject to financial influence and outright bribery. No different from any other part of government. Democracy requires good faith, and the Supreme Court is devoid. Their rulings have become conservative political ideology, with Roe a flagrant example of total fascist theocracy, no different from the Taliban. Whether it is the Islamic prohibition on women's right to read or drive a car, I would say there is nothing more important than reproductive rights, and nothing represents moral authoritarianism greater than forcing a woman to carry every pregnancy to term, regardless of threats to personal health, rape, or viability of the fetus. Nothing could possibly be more barbarically misogynistic than a law that allows a man to rape a woman and then force her to carry the pregnancy to term. This is Iron Age barbarity. I only hope that women will rise up in 2024 and elect enough Democrats to allow a constitutional amendment allowing women the right to choose what is best for their life, health, and well-being, allowing manifestly awful, hateful, cruel, hypocritical monsters like Thomas, Alito, Barrett, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Roberts to impose their moral opinions by usurping established rule of law is wrong and should not be tolerated in a civilized society where the vast majority supports women's rights. This is ruled by the minority. Women have to rise up. Well, women and men too, bud. I mean, come on. Men too have to do it so that these guys can't get away with the bullshit they pulled. And it is bullshit. You know? It's the woman's right, and that's it. And it's the Tufsky Shitsky. And they certainly, if they wanted to come up with something that kind of might satisfy both sides, they didn't even give it a shot, these fucks. They're not even an attempt. I really appreciate that, bud. And I just hope there was one long line there that I hope I got the meaning of it out for the folks. All righty. If not, better luck to me next time. Okay. Thank you for that, bud. I mean that. Thanks for sharing what was obviously pissing you. Long rant from Timothy Truitt, but I think it's worth the time. And also because it comes from a spot near my hometown. I've had an interesting experience with a local cancer charity here in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, Timothy. 3 years ago, I found out that I had a very aggressive form of leukemia, AML. It was very bad news. Even with the best possible treatment, the 5-year survival rate is about 20%. I managed to survive long enough to get a bone marrow transplant, and then I found myself in a long recovery period. I tried to be rational and do all the things I could do to help myself, including seeking out a support group. I'd heard that support groups can be helpful. They can be helpful as long as they are not run by ignorant schmucks who lack people skills. After a long and difficult search, I found a support group, and it was difficult because I was recovering from a bone marrow transplant, which takes about a year, and I had very little energy. BMT is a crazily dangerous thing, which I would never do, except that the alternative was certain death. Right before I got the transplant, I was given total body irradiation, which means that I lay in front of a massive X-ray machine that looked like it might have been General Zog's death ray, and I was given a dose of radiation sufficient to kill all the cells in my bone marrow. I knew that I'd received a fatal dose of radiation, unless the transplant worked, because unlike school children today, who don't have as much opportunity to learn about the real world, when I was 12 years old, I learned that ionizing radiation would kill people by destroying their bone marrow, and then they would die a horrible death in a few days. I knew that because my school library contained a copy of The Effects of Nuclear Weapons by Peter Glaser, and I read it. It was a serious book full of unvarnished truth, and definitely not age appropriate, or whatever mindless psychobabble word people use to describe books they want to keep away from children. Back then, nobody was trying to protect kids from reality by keeping them ignorant. Suffice it to say that when I went looking for a support group, I was in bad shape. I found a group. I thought it was well run, maybe a little helpful, and there were no problems until the organization's management got involved and introduced new policies. The group met by Zoom because we were in the middle of a pandemic. Somebody, the management or their IT weenies, decided that instead of registering once for the group and then dialing in, we would have to register for each and every meeting. Furthermore, to register, we would have to use a web page that had a CAPTCHA. That's right, CAPTCHA, those CAPTCHAs. Those pictures that pop up like trolls from under a bridge that say, solve this puzzle, before you're allowed to pass. I've been through the ringer due to the cancer treatment, including blood leaking into my brain, and from there along the optic nerve into my eyes, so I was not able to see well. I cannot find all the little pictures that contain spotlights or stairs, whatever bullshit task I was being asked to do to prove that I was human, as if the cancer support group needed to prevent automated software agents from grabbing all the available spots like bots buying up Taylor Swift concert tickets on Ticketmaster. After attempting to solve the CAPTCHA 20 times, yes, 20 times, I gave up. I complained to the cancer charity, but nothing ever happened. At one point, they referred me to the IT support. That was not helpful, to put it mildly. I made it very clear to them what I thought of their technical incompetence, bullshit excuses, and their callous disregard for the needs of the people for which they ostensibly existed to help. I gave up on the support group. A year later, I had a relapse, and I decided I needed support, so I tried again. I went through their stupid intake process again, a web form, and this time I got an email. It reads in part, Hope Connections will not be able to offer our services to you. During your last round of services from us, it was clear that you have deeply felt negative opinions about some of our business practices. That is most certainly allowed, but negative messaging is not. Negative messaging? I'm dying of cancer, and they tell me I'm not allowed to use negative messaging? What a load of bullshit. They were able to offer their services to me. They just did not want to. Their website says in big letters, no one should face cancer alone. They should add, except anyone who hurts our delicate feelings by implying that we are not perfect. This is how the cancer charity treats people with cancer. Cancer is a cruel disease, but not as cruel as this cancer charity. Upon further investigation, I found that they moved their offices into a 12,000 square foot mansion in Bethesda, which used to be the summer home of a 19th century robber baron. The building is known locally among the social class that would be aware of such things as the Grosvenor Mansion. When a charity's offices are in a freaking mansion, that tells you what their priorities are. I can only conclude that this organization is a parasite on the body of society, persuading well-meaning but naive donors to part with their money so that the organization can enrich itself while doing very little or nothing to help the people that they say they will help. Timothy, thank you, and I hope your recovery continues. I do hope I hope you're part of that 20%. I really do. Thank you for that. And it's unbelievable what goes on out there. It's unbelievable. And you don't really know about it until somebody sends you something in the first person and tells you, here's what's up. Okay? They're all little mini documentaries at times, I feel, these rants. Thanks, Timothy. Be well. Thanks to all of you for listening to my Rantcast. If you have a rant you want to get off your chest, send it in to me at lewisblack.com/live. You can think of it as therapy, or whatever you want to think of it as. Just let it rip. And I want to thank the true stars of our show, the ranters, and the splendid rants they gave us. Lewis Black's Rantcast was created and hosted by me. Lewis Black. Our live rant audio was produced by James Salter. Our theme song by Chris Lane. Executive producer, Ben Brewer. Executive producers, Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcast.